Teresa is a very religious woman. Every day she goes to church and participates in services and prayer campaigns. But her husband Sandro does not believe that God exists. He is always criticizing his wife. That day Teresa was leaving the church with her friend and neighbor Joao, when Joao says, "Teresa, isn't that your husband over there?" Teresa looks and sees her husband with another woman. She says, "What are you doing here, Sandro? Did you come to get me?" Sandro says, "No, Teresa, I'm not coming to pick you up. I came to find out what time you leave that church." Teresa says, "And who is that woman you're with?" Sandro says that the woman is just a companion, and he needs to take her home. He says, "Bye, Teresa," and he goes with his wife. Joao the friend is outraged by Sandro's attitude. Teresa says, "Sandro, wait, come back here." Sandro, come back here. Joao the friend says, "Teresa, don't do that. It won't be too bad for the baby. Calm down, friend, that God will do the work in his life." Joao takes Teresa home. Later Sandro comes home. He calls Teresa. He says, Teresa, where are you?" Teresa comes from the kitchen and says, "Sandro, what kind of joke was that in front of the church? You with another woman and still in front of me. You have no respect for me. I'm pregnant with your child. I dedicate myself. I'm faithful. Why do you do this to me?" Sandro says, "Teresa, I just got home, and you're not going to stress me out about this now, right? Let's stop the drama." Teresa says, "What a humiliation, Sandro, you put me through. Besides cheating on me, you insist on taking your lover in front of the church. You have no shame in your face. Why do you do this to me?" Sandro speaks, "Do you want to talk about shame in the face with me? Look at you. You don't leave that church. Every day is a different excuse to go there. You're the one who should be ashamed of yourself. You don't leave that church. You stay close to that bunch of men." Teresa says, "He goes to church to pray for his family, for them, and that's what he does." Sandro gets up and takes Teresa by the arm, and says that if she keeps talking like that he'll teach her to respect him. Sandro raises her hand to attack Teresa when Joao comes in and shouts, "What is this, Sandro? You're going crazy. Can't you see that she's pregnant?" Sandro says, "Just what I needed. Who are you to enter my house like that? And telling me what I can or cannot do? In fact, it's all your fault, Joao. You come here every day to my house, and taking my wife out of here and taking her to church. If we're here fighting, discussing it's your fault." Joao says, "You have to learn to respect your wife, Sandro. Just look at the way you talk to her. And we're going to church, precisely to ask God to set you free. And we're there doing intercession, campaigns, because it's just what you need." Sandro says, "I know, and deep down you know, that this God that you so much talk, it's just a legend." Joao says, "But why so much revolt with the church like that?" "Because we go to the church to pray for you. We campaign for you to be freed." Sandro says, "Free me from what, Joao? Tell me there, what am I trapped in? You who know this God of yours and liberation thing, tell me, free me from what?" Teresa says, "Look here, Sandro, I'm just enduring this humiliation because God is going to show you he's real, and he's going to change and transform your life, just like he did mine." Sandro says, Real is the money that you give it to those pastors. In every service they say it's in the name of the church, in the name of God." He looks at John and says, "And you get out of my house now. I'm sick of seeing you here, you gossip. How can you? Every believer is really a gossip. Get out of my house. But don't worry, John, I'm not going to hit my wife, but from today on she won't leave this house to go to church anymore." John says, "There's no need for that, Sandro. Let her go, and today is the last day of the campaign. We made a proposal and we have to fulfill it." Sandro says, "But it was already morning, now we have to go in the afternoon too. You have nothing to do but go to church? By the way, Teresa has things to do." "Yes, my dinner. Because I'm not going to eat reheated food for lunch. No, I'm not going to church, and that's it." Teresa says, "Yes, I will, Sandro, and you are not going to stop me from going to the service. And the campaign runs from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., enough time for me to make your dinner." Sandro says, "That God of yours made you lose track of really danger. I'm going to prove to you today that your God doesn't exist. I'm going to let you go on that campaign, but with one condition: 6 p.m. sharp I want my dinner ready. And today I'm the one who's going to take you to the service, because before let's go somewhere." Sandro is going to take Teresa to the service, but before that he passes by a river that is close to his house. He takes Teresa's house key and says, "Now I want to see how you are going to get inside the house." He takes it and throws the key inside from the river. Teresa says, I can't believe you did that, Sandro says. It's not your God who works miracles, so ask him to do one now. Teresa cries out, God acting, who will stop it? I'm sure that today I'll have my victory, and you, Sandro, will have. To recognize that God is real, that he exists, Sandro laughs, and says, you are so funny. Teresa, with a lot of faith, says, you will see the power of God, and now take me to the church where I am late. Sandro says, you're late, so let's go. End of the service. Teresa and Joao are going home. Joao says, look sister, I don't know how you're holding up to these fights. Teresa says, I only trust my God. I know he's going to change this whole situation. At that moment Sandro appears with his lover. He says to his lover, wait for him there, he'll be right back. He goes to Teresa, takes a fish he bought, and says, there, I want it roasted, 6 o'clock on the I'll be there for dinner. Now I'm going to take a walk with the cat, and when I get home I want everything ready. In fact, I just want to see how you're going to make that fish, without being able to go into the house. Joao says, why do that to her, Sandro? Can't you see that she doesn't even have a key to get into the house? It's very mean of you. Sandro says, wow, your God is not almighty, so ask for a miracle. I'll spare her body and hers, because it's my son she's carrying. More in her face, I'll hit her hard, and she'll have to give the other side. That's not what you preach in this church. Then say only you will never set foot in any church again. Sandro is gone. Teresa is going home and her faith has been rewarded. Sandro comes home, goes in and calls Teresa. She comes and says, hi love, your dinner is already on the table ready. I made everything the way you like it. I'm sure you'll like it. Sandro says, I can't believe that. Did you cheat? Did you call a locksmith to open the door for you? At that moment Teresa says, do you recognize this key? Sandro takes the key and says, but this is the key I threw in the river. How did you manage to recover that key, Teresa? Teresa says, this key was inside the fish, which you asked me to make for you. I told you, Sandro, that God exists. He performed a miracle. He insisted on proving to you that he is real. In which city are you watching this story right now? Sandro looks and says, I don't believe that. Teresa says, what more do you want to prove? God is constantly showing how real he is, and how much he is present in our lives. Sandro is in shock, and says, that's unbelievable. How could I have been such an idiot, to think it was all a lie? But it's all real, right? Look, this is the proof. The proof is here. It really exists. Look at the miracle I said, and it did. Sandro is very emotional, and now he believes in God. She is seeing with her own eyes that God made the impossible happen right there before her eyes. At the same time, he kneels down and asks forgiveness for doubting that God exists. He says, forgiveness, God, forgiveness. Now I know that you hear me. I know that you are real. Forgive me, God, and teach me to see you as my wife sees you. Teach me to have a relationship with you, the God I give you in this moment, God, to key of my life for you. Make me a servant of your God. Sandro asks Teresa for forgiveness for everything he did to her. What did you think of this story? What would you do? This video was a reflection on the presence of God in our midst. Every day he gives us a sign of how real he is. Many people do not realize his presence, but he is always here with us. We just need to open our eyes and give him the control of our life, that he will do the rest. No matter how difficult your struggle is, never stop having faith, because God is just waiting for you to cry out for him. May God bless you all.